Well, welcome back to It's an Inside Job podcast. I'm your host, Jason Lim. Now, this podcast is dedicated to helping you to help yourself and others to become more mentally and emotionally resilient so you can be better at bouncing back from life's inevitable setbacks. Now, on It's an Inside Job, we decode the science and stories of resilience into practical advice, skills, and strategies that you can use to impact your life and those around you. Now, with that said, let's slip into the stream. Well, welcome back to the podcast, folks. I'm glad you could show up for another week. It's hard to believe it's been another 7 days that have transpired since the last time we spoke. Well, this week I have the pleasure of speaking with Iselin Ogre. She's a Norwegian entrepreneur and founder of Skillsbox AS, a sales and projects company that provides freelance sales managers and project managers for the B2B market. Iselin's passion for helping people and creating opportunities for them through her creative ideas and innovative thinking is truly inspiring. As a chief connector, Iselin believes that putting the right people together can create remarkable results. She's an opportunity creator who contributes to growth, and in this episode, we explore how to build entrepreneurial mindset and to deal with rejection, uncertainties, and unexpected challenges. Iselin shares with us her personal journey of struggles, including the people who shaped her and helped her become the successful entrepreneur she is today. She talks about her experience with type 1 diabetes and how temporary blindness due to her condition affected her, and how she found the resilience and positivity to overcome these challenges. In this episode, we also delve into Iselin's philosophy of letting go of limiting beliefs and adopting the fighter spirit to achieve personal growth and success. This was a brilliant conversation. It was popping with energy. You know, Iselin, you will hear it for yourself. You know, she's vivacious, energetic, filled with positivity and optimism. And I walked away from this episode a little lighter on my feet. So join me now as we explore Iselin's unique perspective on entrepreneurship, personal growth, and finding opportunities in life. So let's slip into the stream and meet Iselin Ogre. Well, welcome, Iselin, to the show. I really appreciate your time to showing up. Maybe we could begin the conversation by you introducing who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I've been looking forward to it. This will be a good hour we will have. My name is Iselin Ogre. I'm a Norwegian entrepreneur and has founded the sales and project company Skillsbox. My driving force in life is to help people and find opportunities for them through creative thoughts and ideas. So my company is working towards the B2B market. I work as a chief connector, and I believe that if you put the right people together, 1 + 1 becomes more than 2. So my company is we have freelance sales and project managers. So companies contact me if they need people to help them with their projects, if they don't have the resources, if they don't have the right people, or they don't have the time to have someone take care of the projects. Then we go in and we tailor and try to come up with good solutions.
The reason I wanted to have you on the show is a number of reasons, but we'll explore that during the hour. But we met a few years back, and you have you have a personality that connects. You're very optimistic, very positive, but very genuine, sincere. And what I liked about Iselin is just that the different challenges that you faced and the histories that you've shared with me and how you've overcome that. And I think it's just that. I want to talk about that and to look at Skillsbox. So when did you establish Skillsbox?
I started Skillsbox in November 2019. And as we all know, in March
perfect
2020, it was the perfect timing. So the first milestone was to, overcome a pandemic. I made that, but so it has been some challenging years. But I like to find opportunities for companies. So I think I'm an opportunity maker. There's a lot of challenges in the pandemic, but there's also a lot of opportunities. I think the way I'm blessed with a positive mindset. And I'm a creative person. I like to find opportunities. It's always somebody that needs my help, but also there's, as I said, a lot of opportunities during a pandemic. So it has been some struggling first years, but now things are going very, very well. And that's the best choice I ever made to start on my own. And so it's so fulfilling. And I think that I can use much more of me as a person into the company than I used to do when I worked in bigger companies. It has been a challenge, but it has been also an adventure. It's been a fantastic journey, actually.
Yeah, and with every journey, with every adventures, there's ups and downs. And as we've shared many times, you've faced a number of downhills, but a number of uphills. And you started 2019, not the best time, but who knew this pandemic was going to hit us? Could you speak to one of those major challenges that you found in the beginning of your starting up your company?
Maybe the biggest challenge is that people must believe in you in a way and think that you're an expert or you are worth what you're saying. And you have worked before, but you haven't run a company before. You need those hero stories, and you don't have them yet. You have to find the right clients that believes in you and give you a chance to create all those stories. So that's maybe the biggest challenge, I think. Also, you have to meet people. Because you will get a lot of no's. But I have worked as a hunter in sales for many, many years.
Like a headhunter? A headhunter for sales?
No, in sales, you're a hunter or a farmer. So I'm good at getting new clients. Also, I think I'm very good at farming them as well. I'm used to getting a lot of no's when you're try to get new clients. I was used to the rejections, so that gives me a stare ability. I think you need to find the right people that believes in you, and you need to have stare ability, and it takes hard work. For the first years, this is what you do. So I try to have a social life, but it's a lot of work. I love to meet people as well. And that's the big part of my job. And I get to meet new people all the way, people with different perspective in life. They see the world as different than I do. So I think that's fulfilling for me as well. And I always expand my vision as well. So if you are thinking about starting your own company, I just say do it, because you won't regret it. And if it doesn't work out, you will always come up. You always learn something. So
well said. Can I ask you? You said from your previous experience hunting in sales that you got used to rejection. What do you tell yourself in order to handle rejection, especially in those first few years when you started in sales per se? What advice would you give someone to deal with rejection?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when I started in sales, I didn't have any equipment to be any good. So
you didn't have the experience either, I guess.
No, so because I was just out of school, and what can I do that gives the most increase? I started in the hotel industry, and what people hate the most is to get new clients. And the hunting for new clients. It's like you get rejections. So I started by having an Excel file with like 200 companies and no names, just call them. It was no. But the biggest part, I learned to be good at those rejections, because I knew that it was a good product I delivered. So I always think that, oh, you are so lucky that I'm calling you. So so and you will always get some calls that people hang up on you. They are mean, rude, But okay, that doesn't concern me. It has nothing to do with me. Maybe they have a bad day, But as any other thing, it takes exercise to do those. So you have to train on rejection as well. Just don't take it personally. And that maybe is the hard part.
Yeah, when I started Mind Talk 20 years ago, I was a Canadian who moved here. My Norwegian is a lot better today than it was in those first few years. But it was just that, I had set myself up with a sort of a reframe, Iselin, where I said, you know what, Jason, you need to get 20 no's before you get a yes. So that, for me, that was my reframe. And that really helps with building up that fortitude or that thicker skin. Part of your reframe was that you really believed in the product. So you truly had that sort of grounding. And at the same time, you shielded yourself by not taking the rejection personally. And sometimes you refrained in saying that, at least what I hear is that, oh, they're just having a bad day. Or I'm actually doing them a favor, but they don't see it in that light. That's unfortunate for them. Next call. So you had a list, a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and you would go down each of the companies and just give them a call and see what happened.
Yeah, and my goal was not to sell them to them on the phone, but make a good conversation. So just having good vibe, people. My goal was that they liked me when I called them, and they didn't feel that I'm pushy or I need to tell them a lot of information on short matter of time. I just needed, okay, maybe it's not the timing isn't now, but then they remember, oh, that was a nice girl calling them like 3 months later or 2 years later. That is for me, and it's still my main goal when I meet clients. I want them to like me, and we get a good vibe, a good conversation. Maybe it's not at the right timing, but okay, you never know what happens in the future. People like people they like, So make it as easy as possible. I try to do.
What is your experience as a female entrepreneurial? And I guess, and please correct me if I'm wrong, in a very male-dominated industry.
I don't have met on that many challenges as a female entrepreneur. I think in the start, I felt that maybe people underestimated me a little bit more because I'm not sure if it's a woman or maybe didn't believe in my product. I don't know. But I maybe think they a little bit underestimated me. And I had a lot of conversation where they try to, how I should do my job or show me presentations where they actually present their own company to give me some good advice on how I can do it better. So I think you just have to, you always meet people that will tell you or give you advices on how you should do things. But I think you just have to trust your gut that what you do is the right thing. And it's good to have good advices, of course. And you need to be a little bit critical to which advice you should listen to. I always I like to listen to people and absorb it, and maybe I'll take some of the advices. I learned a little bit that many people isn't that concerned about listening, and I think that thing is underrated. Even if when I talk to potential clients or just networking to expand my network, it's opportunities will come when you actually get to know people and listen to them and what's hiding behind what they say or the front they present. Maybe one of my biggest advices is to listen.
And I think listening is an underrated skill. I mean, we hear it in a lot of different trainings all the time. But if we truly, truly listen, it's how to focus our attention. Because a lot of the times, many of us, when we're listening to other people, we have a dialogue going on in our head, sort of like thinking of the next question or coming up with a rebuttal. One thing that I learned in clinical training when working with back in the day, many years ago with patients is a technique called echoing. So if you were saying something to me, Iselin, like, oh, the traffic coming into work was busy, I would actually echo what you're saying in my head. This way, because since the brain can only focus on one thing at a time, that means I'm actually listening to that particular sentence or message twice, what you're telling me, and then articulating the same or echoing it in my head. This prevents me or a clinician or a therapist or whatever from thinking constantly about something else, but you truly listen at the deeper level. So I agree. Listening is an underrated science and art form that we all could be better at. I know I could be better at it, even though I do it every day. There's still lots of room for improvement. So let me ask you have a personality that is, you're very extroverted. You like to engage with people. You like to talk to people and such. But there may be some younger people coming out of school and they are thinking of starting up a company themselves to find an interest, to go out there and to create a space, a niche for themselves in which to create a new business entity. What advice would you give to a young person, male or female, doesn't matter, as to how to build self-confidence?
Yeah. When I started working as a sales manager for a hotel in Oslo, there was a lot of, for example, mingle events. Everybody hates mingle events when they start working, and everybody is a little bit uncomfortable. And it's, oh, Jesus, are we going to do this again? And you feel like you're kind of crashing a party and everybody knows each other, so then just my biggest advice is maybe to just go out of the comfort zone, because you will grow so much if you just challenge yourself a little bit. Don't have to do like big steps at a time, but take small steps every day when you start especially when you start your career. Do the thing you think is a little bit scary or intimidating, and just take, for example, I started doing the cold calling. Everybody hates it. I hated it in the beginning because it's very much out of your comfort zone, and we all have had those phone calls from annoying salespersons. So it's but by just stepping out of that comfort zone, and maybe for myself, I just try to find my niche, so I could have an advantage that the others didn't have. So try to just find maybe your niche, and always try to step a little bit out of your comfort zone day by day. That's my biggest advice. And also find good people, good mentors, expand your network, and have good people surrounding you that you can use to get good advice on what you should do with your career. That's my...
Thanks for that. And to connect it back to what you talked about earlier, it's truly believing in your product or your service or your knowledge that you want to push out there, that you think could be value of other people. Coming back to what you said about the listening and exploring, if you truly listen to the other person, then you can ask them questions to engage their interests, because people obviously love talking about themselves. We all do. In a sense, it's a sense of branding and marketing. We all do it, and it's just part of the human makeup. But what I also hear you saying is that it's to actually believe in your product, believe in your service, find that niche. And because then you're talking about a place of certainty and control, a sense of what you know, and you're speaking from a place of confidence, because that's always a good foundation. You were saying to build a network or to find a mentor. Did you yourself find a mentor that helped you along the way?
I have several, not maybe mentors, but role models, I would say. I have to tell about my first leader I actually had. He was director of sales at the first hotel I worked with. And I didn't have any experience when I started. I just was just straight out from school and was like, how are we going to do this? But then he came and I knew from the start he had my back. Okay, the best, you have to try. Maybe you will end up and screw things up, but you have to try. And I will always save you and have your back. And with him leading me, I wanted to make him proud. So I always did the extra mile because he believed in me and I believed in him and I wanted to make him proud. And especially we had so much fun, and that's also a big, when you have fun to work, the work pays off, I think. So to have someone believing in you and not mentoring, but I saw what he did, and he was a big role model for me to have to learn more skills.
And I think that's also a very salient point. It may not be a mentor, but to have someone you can look up to, a role model. And it's just that, like if you're going to learn to play golf, go to a golf pro because he or she will teach you the right techniques. They will tell you how to swing, what to practice, or whatever, riding a horse or giving a speech or leading people or communicating. If you can find that great coach, if we can call it that, just as a general label for any discipline, if you can find a good coach, he or she can teach you the strings, how to pull the strings, what to do, how to practice, so you can develop the right habits, the right mindsets, the right communication skills. I'd like to shift to, we've talked about Skillsbox and understanding your entrepreneurial mindset with rejection and self-confidence and such. And I think those are all very valuable skills. But all of those skills came from more of your own personal, if I can call it, struggles. We all have our struggles.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little more about your own personal history that's brought you up to where you are today.
Absolutely. My story starts in 2016. I was at a client presenting I was then working in this company, and I was out with the clients and presenting the places I represented. I was presenting the places and suddenly my eyes started to bleed right in the presentation. And I knew that about 5 minutes from now, I can't see anything and I will go blind. The audience couldn't see that I was going blind, but to understand the whole story, I have to go back many, many, many years to start my story, because I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1995. So this is a disease that was very familiar to my family and also to me, because I had a grandfather that also had type 1 diabetes. And he was diagnosed in 1940, just when Germans invaded Norway. So this story includes bomb bridge. They had to row him by boat over the river and get him to the state hospital in Oslo. And also at the same time, his mother was almost dying from tuberculosis. And the whole family had to figure out what to do with this disease and how to live with it. And you don't have the same equipment like I have for now, in an insulin pump and also continuous glucose meter that always shows what my glucose is and
level
how
is,
much insulin I need to take.
Yeah, your sort of your blood sugar levels. It reads the blood sugar levels at any time. Just if we could just put a pause on that for a second, can you just talk about what type 1 diabetes is for any of the audience members?
Yeah.
And how it can affect a person?
Absolutely. Type 1 diabetes is that you have the pancreas doesn't work. It doesn't produce any insulin. That's the difference between type 2 diabetes is when it doesn't work properly. You still have some insulin, but in my case, I'm born with a pancreas that doesn't work, so I don't get any insulin. So if I don't get insulin, I will die. in the daily life, you have to, my job is to manually function your own organ. So what, for instance, your body fix this on its own, but I have to manually find out how much insulin I need, what I should eat, if I'm going for exercise, I need to prepare before how much I eat, how little or less, more insulin I need to take. And so it's like a full-time job. You never get
never a break.
paid,
It's a full-time job, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you can't go on holiday, unfortunately. If it just had been like insulin, activity, and food, that's the factors that affect the blood sugar, it wouldn't be so difficult, but it's so much more factors. So we know it's about 52 factors that challenges the blood sugar. And it's like, if you go on different medications, if the weather is warm or cold, and especially your emotions. So if, for example, if I win a sale and get very excited, my blood sugar increases very, very fast.
Skyrockets.
So, yeah. So and if you, for example, is stressed, you need more insulin. So it's a very, very complex disease, and how these factors affect me isn't the same as it can affect other people. So our job is to find our way of coping with all these factors, because one size doesn't fit all. It can be tough mentally to have diabetes, and it can be very tiring. Fortunately, the last years they have more focus on the mental challenges by being chronically ill, and especially diabetes. So you see the whole person instead of just the numbers we produce, and not just how the body works, but also us as a human being.
So let me ask you, before we continue your story with the going temporarily blind, just to what has managing diabetes taught you about mental and emotional resilience? Because as you said, this is, you can't just, it's 8 o'clock, I can stop. This is around the clock, managing yourself and managing your insulin levels and the complications around that. What has managing diabetes taught you about mental and emotional resilience?
I think it has taught me a lot. I think that if I hadn't had type 1 diabetes, so for so many years, I hadn't had the same resilience. I have a lot of struggles during, especially when I was a teen and in my 20s. Of course, if I could choose, I wouldn't have the diabetes and I wouldn't have all those struggles. But the challenges you meet in life, it's what makes you you. And those experiences and how I cope with them, I wouldn't be without. I feel that I'm more mentally prepared for challenges ahead when I actually have this disease and going blind. Then I know what a crisis feels like, and I know how I cope with a crisis, and that's very fulfilling. But also, it's empowering for me because I think I'm a little bit more calm. It's easier to just pick out, okay, this I need to be more, this is actually a crisis, or this, okay, that's not a big deal. I will fix it. But also the way I think you get your cards for life and you have to do the best out of them. If you make the best out of the situation with those cards you are brought, and I don't use. And I actually never used much energy of, what would my life have been if I didn't have type 1 diabetes or I didn't get the challenges. I think that, okay, we all have something. This was my thing. And I can't use much energy thinking about what could have been. This is your reality, and you have to do what's the best out of it. And that's empowering for me.
business, any business, starts as an idea, a spark in the head, a kindling of a thought to create an entity, a product, a service. And Iselin, she caught that. She caught that spark, and she started Skillsbox. But when she started out, as she said, she didn't have any of those hero stories. And so she had to search for clients, the right clients, those clients that will believe in you and to give you the chance to create those stories. But as Iselin said, it's no easy climb. And you can ask any entrepreneur out there, it's never an easy climb. It does get easier. And she talked about how she dealt with rejection. And that part of that reframe was to think about the future, the deal that will eventually come at some point in the future. But today, I have to make that another call. I have to reach out. I have to connect. I have to network. And with that simple and effective philosophy, Iselin has grown Skillbox. And in part 2 of Iselin's story, she talks about dealing with type 1 diabetes and all the complications that come from that. She continues her story where she's in a sales meeting with a big client, and all of a sudden she literally goes blind. It's a captivating story, and as Iselin says, she was dealt these cards, and she just has to play those cards to the best of her ability. She didn't have time to think of what if or why me. But it was about moving forward, about taking on a positive and optimistic mindset and seeing the opportunities, the possibilities to grow and to build Skillsbox to help other people, to get businesses to connect with other businesses. So let's slip back into the stream with Iselin Ogre for part 2. As you said, if the cards were dealt better, the cards were dealt. They're neither good nor bad. They are the cards that are dealt. And as it sounds like over time, you've had the mental discipline to focus on what's on the here and now and not to get wrapped up in the rumination and the overthinking of what if. And I think that's a superpower in itself, a mental superpower, because a lot of us can get wrapped up in what if, why did this happen to me? And we go round and round and round and down the rabbit hole we go. And if we don't stop, we get so deep that can lead to other types of distresses, mental distresses. You said, I just want to come back. You said, you go through a crisis, but you're kind of calm through the crisis. Is it because you know how that crisis, how you will come out on the other end based on experience? Is it something you tell yourself? How do you stay calm in crisis, Iselin?
Good question. I think some of them is, of course, that I have some experiences, but I also think that I grew up in a family that when we had some crisis, everybody got really, really calm. I also many of the people in my family is trained health personnel. When a crisis hits the family, we all get very, very calm. So, and also we have good genes to cope with those things. But I think it's like, okay, this is the situation. What's the best I can do right now? Is there anything I can do with the situation? If not, who can I contact to help me? If there's nothing I can do, okay, then this is the situation. And I don't use any energy by thinking and go deeper into the challenge. Yeah, I don't, because I don't think my body, by thinking negative, and nobody knows what the future will bring. But if I use a lot of energy thinking about things that can go wrong, probably things can go wrong, but you never know. And it can get, but I think it's usually it all works out. And I think to have a positive mind, my body feels better. I'm more prepared mentally to take on those challenges as well and find solutions.
I think I just want to sort of put a pause in that and kind of rewind, because there's a number of skills there that you spoke about that are really good. As you said, the thing is you had a benefit of having many medical professionals in your family. And so what they did, you had role models in that sense, is that when the crisis hits, things can really speed up in our heads. But what you said is they calm down. So sometimes by slowing things down, we actually speed things up, meaning we're able to process emotions and feelings and our thoughts a lot better if we can slow things down. You had the advantage. So what I recommend to a lot of people sometimes just to expressively write things out, what's going on in you, because you can only physically write so fast. And so that forces your thinking and your emotions to slow down in order to process. So that's one thing. And then you said, you asked yourself, what can I do about this situation? So what you did by asking that question, that puts you into a what we call self-efficacy mindset, meaning you can control the situation. You look for where you have autonomy, what you can do about the situation, what are the facts and what are the realities. I think also what you said also, if there's nothing much I can do in the here and now, you don't get wrapped up in trying to predict the future, crossing bridges and the consequences of the crossing bridges. This is the reality. Let's just deal with it. And you focus on other things that you can do, right? And that gives you a sense of self-confidence. And as I said, self-efficacy. And I think also, as simply as you said, it has deep and profound effects when you say to have a positive mindset. Because what you said also is that it's not going to be the extreme. You know, the brain's going to usually paint us a horror picture of the most extreme thing that can happen. But you said, from my experience, most of the time it falls within the bell curve. It's not that extreme. It's a problem, yes. It's a struggle, yes. But it's not a danger per se to life and limb. It falls within a manageable spectrum. And so I just wanted to take that apart because there was a lot of good advice there that people can draw from your experience. So if we rewind back to your story, sorry for this big pause.
Yeah.
You're sitting there in a meeting, in a sales meeting with a number of people around the table, and your eyes start, I guess people can't see them bleeding. That's something you see. It's in your corneas or something?
Yeah, because I can take the story about my eyes, because the first time I had, because it's complications from diabetes, of course. And the first time I had complication with my eyes was when I was 26. I was just finishing my bachelor degree, and during the summer I was working on this theater, local theater production, and was helping them with getting sponsors. And suddenly I couldn't see the screen on my computer, and it fast was going to the worst. And I went to the doctors, and then I got diagnosed with cataracts. And it was like 50 years before I was thinking I ever had to deal with that. So I was operated in 2011 for this. And the only thing I had to do was start using glasses. So I didn't have any problems with my eyes until 2014, when I started having changes in my eyes. And I needed to take some laser. So if you will see pictures of my eyes now, it looks like the moon with craters on it. So I don't like to look at my eyes, actually. And also I needed shots straight to the eyeball for a period. And then we're in 2015. I'm in a baptism as a godmother, actually, in the west coast of Norway. And then I just started to see blood in my eyes. So if you couldn't have seen it on me, that inside my eyes are bleeding. So everything looks normal. And it got worse. By the fall 2015, I got operated on one of my eyes. Everything is good. And then I come back to work, and it's high season. It's a lot to do. And suddenly the other eye, the eye that is not operated, started to bleed as well. So then we are in January 2016. So high season, it's a lot to do. One of my eyes are bleeding. So when I sit down to work, I wear an eye patch. So it's a little bit Jack Sparrow working with one eye and trying to do the best, because at the time, it was very inconvenient to be blind, and I didn't have the time for it. And I just had to say, I love work. and working. So it was important to me to not go on sick leave again. It's maybe not the most important thing, and this is not a good tips to listeners to do it like me, but it was the right for me. But then we are at this client presentation. I just presented one of the places that my company owns, and then suddenly the other operated eye started bleeding. And then I know, okay, it's about 5 minutes now. My eye will be totally foggy. So then the eye is now operated so it can self-absorb itself. But it will have the bleeding, and it will take some time to the eye goes back to normal. When you meet this kind of challenges, you will also know how you will work in a crisis. I stand there and I think, shoot, this was very inconvenient. And I think my first reaction is that, okay, I just need to have this presentation and we'll deal with this afterwards. And then I understand that this goes a little faster than I was thinking it would. So I understand that now it's about 5 minutes till I don't see anything and I go blind. And my reaction then is I don't want to upset the client now. So how can I say in the most positive way, most calming way that, sorry people, we need to quit this presentation. So then I get my most politically correct and I just stops and say, pardon, but I'm sorry, I have to cancel this presentation because I'm going blind. So could you please order a taxi for me to the hospital? And they, of course, goodness. What the hell is happening here? And I just, no worries. It has happened before. Not on both eyes at the same time. So that is a little bit inconvenient. So, and they just, oh my God. So they ordered a taxi for me. And one of the ladies helped me down the stairs. And she said, Iselin, last week we were at a sales course. And the presenter, he said, the most important thing is to be remembered. And you definitely got that.
Yeah. So. Well, you definitely left your calling card there. Yeah, I'm going blind. Please calm down. You're telling everyone else to calm down. You should be kind of freaking out, but you're the one that's calm, trying to pacify everyone. It's okay. It's okay. Just give me a taxi. Yes, you definitely be memorable. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it was so the taxi drive me to the hospital, and the one eye that I was foggy, it would take some weeks until I
clear it again
to clear it again. But the other eye that was bleeding, it was like a big sumo belt constantly bleeding in my eyes, in my sight.
Sure.
So I had to sell my apartment. I had to move back to my parents because since I am a diabetic and have an insulin pump, I need help constantly. So I was blind for 3 months until I had other surgery. What I remember from that period is I actually remember that as a very good period, because what I'm proud of is that I never focused on what if this won't work out? What if I can't see again? What if I can't work again? And I had a little down what if I can't go shopping again and find nice clothes? Somebody else will dress me. But okay, that's okay. Over to happy thoughts then, I think. So, but I'm actually quite proud of I didn't use any energy or thinking, what if? I just, okay, this will go as it should. I have the operation, and then everything is going to go fine. So yeah, it was actually a quite good period where I had just focusing on myself and try to be positive and surround myself with positive people. And yeah, because as I said earlier, I think the body heals better if I stay positive and think that this would actually work out. And then I had the surgery, and I haven't had any problems since. So it did work out fine.
And it's sometimes that, in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a crisis, at that time, we can wish that this didn't happen. But early in the conversation, you talked about a number of cognitive and emotional techniques to help yourself find the eye of the storm, the calm part of the storm, to make it through. And with many people I've talked to through the years, they look back at some sort of health crisis or whatever crisis, financial or job or professional crisis, as sometimes some of the best things that happen to them. Although it sounds twisted from an external point of view, thinking, what, you had that and you went through that and that's good. For a lot of people, they say, you know what? It was a wake-up call for me. It helped me to understand where my strengths are and where I can strengthen some of the places where I'm a little weaker. And that experience was that experience was a great teacher to teach them a lot about themselves, their limits, and how they can push through their limits. And I think this sounds like it falls into that category where you had this. I mean, it's obviously a crisis. It's a struggle that you've worked with, and the blindness due to the type diabetes 1, it hit you, and you were blind for 3 months. Yeah. Again, you pulled from all that experience you've had and this positive mindset. And again, as you said, that positive mindset had positive effects on your physiology, and your positive physiology, then it's this circle, and the circle goes up. And so I think for you, Iselin, this crisis, as you said, in maybe not so many words, but you said that it's something that you learned from. It actually served you well and made you stronger, both emotionally, physically, and mentally, it sounds like. Would you say that I've characterized it close to what you've said?
Most definitely. I think the experience gives me empowerment. It gives me fighter spirit. What is a crisis? What can I affect? Is there anything I can do about any situation, any challenges? So if I meet daily crisis, like we meet every day in work or in the personal life, I don't get that emotional about it. I don't gear myself up. I think it gives me empowerment to just, okay, what is the best solution here? Even if it's like strange to think how others having it when I go blind. I think that is also some empowerment, because I think it's a way for me to just zoom out of the situation and maybe doesn't face the big crisis that actually happens here. But if I focus on, okay, people, slow down, it's not a big deal. And that zooming out of the situation technique, I think I use also in other situations, to just focus on what can I impact right now? What can I do with the problem or situation or challenge right now, instead of having all the answers or think of all that can go wrong or all that can go good as well, but just focus on one problem at a time.
I think that's really good. I mean, there's, again, a number of strong cognitive reframing techniques. As you said, going through such a crisis gives context to everything else. Because when you're in a particular challenge now, you can look back and say, you know what, I've been through worse. This is nothing. I can ride this. An upset client, you lose a contract, what have you. And that worst experience you had earlier in your life actually allows you to to look at this one with more objective eyesight. And I think another reframe you talked about is moving from the subjective storm. Oh my God, I'm going blind. I mean, most of us would be there, but you shifted your reframe, your perspective, and thinking, how are the other people? How am I going to handle this situation? At the same time, it also helps you because by focusing on how you can help other people, that keeps your brain focused on something you can act on, something where you can invest effort. And I think so eloquently to kind of bring this conversation to a close is that you said the challenge you meet in life make you who you are. I think that's such an eloquent way of describing challenges because it does shape you for good or for bad. And as you said, and that's what I like so much about your personality and your mindset and who you are, Iselin. And I don't say this lightly. I think your take on things, how you ask yourself empowering questions, fuels your self-confidence, fuels you from not being in victim mode, but victor mode to empower yourself. I think there's so much you've shared with us today. One last question. Is there any advice or suggestions you would give to others out there who are facing struggles right now?
It's a big question. The way I met my challenges, it was right for me. So other people may meet the challenges in a different way. I think to focus on make the problem smaller. The challenge is big, but if you can part it kind of down and look at, okay, what you can do with some of the issue or just is there something, ask yourself, if you focus on what can I control at the moment? If there's nothing you can control, who can control it? Is there anyone you can ask? And don't try to make it as small as possible or partner it up a little bit, but also when you meet challenges, it's of course tough. And I said that it was a good period for me, but of course it's challenging, trying to stay positive as well. So it's a job you have to do to stay positive as well. I'm blessed with a positive mind, of course, but to stay positive, you have to train that skill as well. From having the challenge to solving the challenge, the road goes up and down. And you have good days and you have bad days. But there's always a thing you can be happy about. You can always find things that makes you happy in some way, I think, or parts through the day that can be a little bit more. It makes you a little bit of joy. But it's easy for me to say because I'm a very privileged person, and I know I am. So it's easier for me to. It's easy for me to say those kind of things, but also try to find light spots during the day, I think, and narrow it down, the problem.
And it's not to make light of what you've done. I mean, what you went through is quite serious. I mean, each of us can put ourselves into the mental theater and actually think, if I was in the front of that room giving a presentation to people who don't me about building my business in a very hectic time, and then all of a sudden I went blind. I mean, I maybe you're privileged by the experience if we look at it in that certain way, but I understand what you're saying. Iselin Ogre, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in your services in Skillsbox?
Yeah, you can contact me on LinkedIn or you can contact me on my website, skillsbox.no. If you just want to connect with me and expand your network, if you want to have a chat with me, digital or physical, just say hi to me. I love to meet new people.
Well, Iselin, thank you for the hour and thank you for sharing your personal stories and your entrepreneurial stories. I think they were very valuable and there's a lot we can mine from this conversation.
Thank you for having me. And it was a great honor to be on your podcast, but also to talk about resilience. It meant a lot to me.
It was my privilege. It was my privilege and my honor to have you. Thanks, Iselin. Have a great day.
You as well. Thanks.
Well, folks, that was Iselin Ogre. She's the founder of Skillsbox. It's a company that provides freelance sales managers as well as project managers. So if any of you listeners out there have an available position that needs filling, well, get in touch with Iselin. She's a connector, a networker, and she knows a lot of people. Trust me on that. She will be able to set you up with the right person, with the right skill set, with the right knowledge. You'll be able to find the link to Skillsbox and also Iselin's contact information in the show notes. Like Iselin, many of us face our own personal struggles. But the thing is, if we can adopt an optimistic and constructive and positive mindset, we can overcome most things. And sometimes it's just being able to understand that the situation is the situation. But what makes the difference is our ability to consciously, cognizantly take ownership and responsibility for our perspective. As Iselin said, it's to play the cards that we are dealt and to play them to the best of our ability. Thank you very much, Iselin, for spending some time with us and sharing your story and your strategy and your skills. I really, really appreciate it. Well, folks, that brings us to a tail end of another episode, and I appreciate you showing up, as you usually do. Please leave any comments or feedback. I always like to read them every week. As a call to action, folks, if you could please rate, subscribe, and review this episode and the podcast. And if it would not be too much trouble, too much burden, if you could recommend this to 2 friends, 2 colleagues, and 2 family members, it would help me spread the word of this podcast, to spread the word of how to build mental, emotional resilience, well-being, and mental health. Well, thanks again. Until next week, keep well, keep strong, and we'll speak soon.